All right, hello everybody. We are back. But today we're starting a new series.
The GOAT series.
The GOAT series. This marks episode 1 of Tarkovsky Tuesdays.
Yes, sir.
An idea that I floated to Mason a little bit ago. As I started watching the films with him, he's been able to live with these because you really do live with them for about 2 years now. But yeah, we've done a little bit of art house for y'all, but we haven't really gotten into the weeds. And I'd consider, he's not the most like avant-garde, but it's not like, if someone's really snooty, they're not going to be impressed if you say Tarkovsky, but still, his body of work is pretty undeniable. So,
I think to like most reviewers and kind of media people and people in the sphere and directors and stuff, they know his name to be like one of the 5 or 10 like greats. You know? Kubrick, John Ford, Hitchcock, all those people, Bergman, he's definitely up there. So, I think this is like not like in terms of like crazy wacky art house, but like in terms of like
pioneering the medium.
Meaningful art and stuff. This is probably the apex.
And we'll get into this more, but like I think a lot of directors approach film differently, and they also prioritize different things. Mm-hmm. But you don't really get the like technical mastery with just excellent storytelling and like a really good sense for drama and how an arc should work. Like you do with Tarkovsky.
He knows how to lay out
He's the
his
best of
movies.
both worlds.
Yeah,
because sometimes you get one or the other.
Yeah, he's really he might not be the most technically gifted filmmaker
he's pretty good.
to ever live, which I think part of that is because of his budgets and stuff. He couldn't like flaunt a lot and stuff, but he's certainly up there.
If you're just looking at the picture, though, you could still put him in the conversation.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And then in terms of like writing and having an arc to your movie and it building up to something important and it staying with you and it being meaningful and it like it touching you. That's why he's the greatest, That no one else can even really compare to him, in my opinion, for me. But.
And I've said this for a little bit, but like, I don't think any director does characters better than Bergman. I think that's his thing.
Yeah, it's definitely his thing. Yeah.
But if you're talking scope of a story, and I wanted to talk more about this because it's really interesting, but the idea of transcendentalism, where you as a viewer go on this long, huge journey, and you're kind of in the dark for most of it, but by the end you reach the top of the proverbial mountain, and you get to look down below it, like the journey that you just undertook, and it's like amazing.
It's a journey. I mean, we'll get into this as we talk about all his films throughout these weeks and stuff, but it really is a journey.
No, seriously.
Like all of his movies are like the first 30 minutes you're like,
I think
man, this is kind of tough. This is challenging. This is a different situation than watching a Kubrick or watching a Lynch. Or
I think for every single one of his movies, I've been an hour and a half in and be like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this by the end.
Yeah,
and then
which I'm not like quite like that, but
the credits will roll and it'll be like, yeah, that might be the greatest movie ever made.
He knows how to stick the landing. So we know that. I mean, his endings are some of the best ever.
But just the way that he unfolds a story is really unique, both from a pacing standpoint and just like storytelling.
He's just a great storyteller, you know? And that's like, and it helps when the stories are bold and magnificent and just jaw dropping.
And there's really no
most of the time.
better blueprint for trusting the process than the movie that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
A 3-hour epic, and it earns, the title of epic in both its scale and length and just like how it was done and accomplished, because there are some pretty jaw-dropping set pieces in here. The production design is ridiculous. It's
definitely.
Yeah.
Like with the budget he was working with, and the restrictions he was working with.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's one of one, I think. We're talking about Andrei Rublev. So Mason knows he's seen this 3 times. So
4-ish.
4-ish. I've seen it 1. And I don't even have an ish on that. So 1 time. So I'm gonna let him go to work, and then I'll just maybe interject here and there.
Well, I mean, I don't know where you want to start, but little background on Tarkovsky. Like we said, he is known as one of the best ever, and he was going to school in Moscow, and he directed.
So he studied film.
Yes, he did. He did study film.
It's not like one of those guys that studied architecture and became the best
Yeah. Well, I think it would make sense for him if he was studying painting.
Yeah.
So I could actually see that.
Yeah, something.
Because I'm sure film school helped. I think it was like a God-given gift. When you're that good at something, that has to be like a God-given gift. So he started off with technically his first like short, which it's not really short. It's like 50 minutes, but his graduation film was called The Steamroller and the Violin, and it's probably better than like 90% of things that you're gonna watch. It's incredible. You can see his ideas on people and life and nature and God and religion and stuff, and the framing and how he moves the camera and stuff. You can just tell, like, yeah, this guy is good. This guy's really good, and he didn't really have any budget and stuff. And then after that, he made Ivan's Childhood in 1962, and then we come to this 4 years later, and his first 5 films were made in the Soviet Union, which is important because that kind of impacts definitely the content of this film and the structure of it and where it is set in and stuff. And I think I told you this when we watched it and stuff, but it was actually supposed to play at Cannes in like 1966, and then they delayed it for like 2 years because the Soviet Union like didn't want it to come out and stuff. And then it ended up coming. They finally released it like in the Soviet Union like 5 years after it released like abroad and stuff. So it was it was a troubled production. There was a lot of trouble like getting it out and stuff. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the background on where we come to this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we want to talk about the opening, the prologue?
Sure. Just beforehand, I want to check something.
Okay.
So we talked about this in my history of Western art music class, specifically the second one that goes from the late Romantic period to what you call the modern day, which is like mid-20th century.
Okay.
A very important school of thought in the Soviet Union was called socialist realism.
Okay.
And our professor for that class is a musicologist, and he's fantastic. He's one of my favorite people in the School of Music. But the hill that he would die on is that it was not a doctrine, and so this wasn't like enforced. If you didn't abide by socialist realism, you weren't jailed or killed or anything.
Yeah.
But there was sort of an underlying philosophy of how art should portray the Soviet Union.
Certainly, yeah.
And that was a huge thing for Shostakovich. He was one of the composers that was like ridiculed the most for not writing his music in the style that like
that they kind of wanted him to.
It needed to sound uniquely Russian. Like, and it was often encouraged that you used like folk songs or folk melodies that evoked like a sense of camaraderie among the nation. And so I mean, during that time, granted that's like 1940, so this is like 30 years later. I don't know how much that was a factor, but 1930s. So
I mean, the interesting thing about this is if you go back and read some quotes and you go back and watch the film and stuff, he's not. It's not like he's not bashing it.
No.
He's really not, and it's like he wants. I think some of the movie revolves around him wanting the Soviet Union to like be more powerful and like kind of go back to its glory, and like he can see them going in a wrong direction.
So I think in a way it is sort of countercultural and a protest to the Soviet Union. I think there's a difference between like the history of the Russian people, because I'm not a Russian citizen. I don't know the history of Russia all that well.
I don't either.
I don't want to speak out of turn.
I think obviously Tarkovsky kind of liked that heritage.
From what I can understand, there's a huge sense of pride among like Russian people, or there used to be, about like Russians enduring really like severe hardships.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, and you just go back to like World War II. I mean, even though the war that's going on with
Ukraine?
No, not contemporary. Like in the movie.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Like with the Tartars?
Yeah. And there's just a lot of like, I mean, in this film alone, there's so many atrocities that like the
Turkey,
Russian people
like,
endure. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think that is
it's been a troubled country
that Tarkovsky likes to sort of glorify and almost like he sort of wants to harken back to, you know, the strong spirit of the Russian people, and not necessarily because if you start talking about like the Soviet Union, then you get into like the state, and that's not the people, that's different. So I think he's trying to bolster the people with this, and it's speaking out against the Soviet Union as a government.
I think
body.
I think that is kind of running in parallel with how he sees the world as a whole.
Yeah.
And the people. And we've talked about this. This is in every single one of his movies. He can see certainly in his lifetime at a very fast pace, for kind of the first time, he can see the world becoming more secular.
Yeah.
And he is scared of that.
Some people would call it like the decline of society, but
and
his entire career is almost a document of how he views like the changes within the 20th century and like the modernized world, and how
we can go back to like,
well, how he would like to go back, but really how we've reached the point of no return.
No. He's like giving, because he's giving pointers to like, hey, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to live.
But
it's too far gone.
His outlook is increasingly pessimistic. Like
once you get
to the sacrifice,
our
like
talks,
he's just. You know,
it's over. He's given up.
Deathbed, and
he's given up.
Yeah,
and I mean, at that point,
he
knew he was going to die and all that stuff. But
hey, but you know what? Makes for some pretty good movies. So
certainly that one. But I mean, all of them. But yeah, so so there's the movie's broken up into 2 parts. Each part has a couple chapters.
You have the DVD,
and
it's 27 chapters.
Yes.
How many? Go look at your collection and see how many of those movies have 27 chapters.
Usually,
in them.
like
not many.
13 or 14.
And there is an epic.
there is a prologue and an epilogue, and I guess we can start with the prologue. I actually think this is one of the most interesting things about the film. It is so. It's really the only thing that feels non-linear and just kind of a little bit out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's within the setting. It's within the time.
Does he have any? We just did Fire Walk with Me, so like that's what's ringing a bell of like an intro that doesn't really. I mean, that has like ramifications on the rest of the movie, but like this one almost is completely unrelated.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other films that do that. Can't think of a ton off the top of my head.
It's not
certainly a bold move.
Not a common thing, yeah.
No.
And
just from a technical standpoint, though, I mean,
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, keep a tally of how many times you ask yourself, "How'd they shoot that?" Like, how did like?
And it makes it makes it even more like how'd they shoot this, because you're thinking that they shot it in the 15th century or the 14th century because it looks so much like that.
You routinely forget that this was not that it's not just a window into history. Tarkovsky was getting in his car and going home and watching TV once the workday was over.
That hurts my head.
Yes.
It really does.
I mean, you said like that he liked listening to Yellow Submarine, like when he was at Cannes. That like he was singing that
supposedly,
to himself.
he liked him some Beatles. So.
Yeah, it's just, well, he liked Bach too. We'll talk about that, but
Bach's a little bit better than the Beatles.
But yeah, this is just one of the most thorough period pieces I think ever made.
I mean, I think all we really need to talk about in terms of the prologue is what the heck does the hot air balloon mean, and why do we cut to a horse for 30 seconds and then start the film? It's a little odd. I still don't know. I think the hot air balloon could be a symbol for a lot of things. Obviously, I think that it's in some ways it's almost representing like maybe Tark wanting to like rise above kind of the people of the day or escaping something, in terms of like how he feels that the Soviets are moving, or the like kind of more secular world that he sees like in front of him. But
it's interesting that the balloon crashes though.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah.
And I think that if my like feeling of that is like somewhat right, then it crashing would be like too far gone.
Yeah.
Even in this.
And this is his second film.
This is his second film. He's a smart enough person to know the world's not just gonna go back to like icons and religion and every single art piece being, kind of devoted to this like religious meaning and all this. Like, he knows that's gone, and he's sad about it. He's upset about it, so.
Do you have any thoughts on like the horse in general?
Well, as we'll get into it later.
Yeah.
I was telling you this before, but there's just something about horses in the film that I feel like it's like one of the most important parts of the film, and he keeps coming back to showing us horses and stuff, and I'm honestly not sure. I really don't know, and I've seen it 3 times. I think it could be something tied in with nature. It's a very tactile movie. A lot of nature things. We know that Tarkovsky, as we'll learn over the next few weeks, he loves nature. He loves trees. He loves wind. He loves water. He loves dirt. He loves mud. He loves like he lived like in a barn, like in the middle of nowhere. Like he loves snow. We see a lot of snow in his films. So I think that like when you think of horses, you just kind of think of like kind of like a freedom and like kind of like a natural like sense to them. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I guess we can start getting into the meat and potatoes and talking about Rublev, the character, and like some of the chapters and the arc that he goes on. We see Rublev with 2 other monks, and a lot of the film is just them kind of walking around. And they split up, and there's things that happen, but I don't know. I don't know what to say.
I saw
about
something that and the guy wasn't like, he didn't have anything to back it up, but he said that if in his estimate, Andrei Rublev has less than 10% of the lines in the movie, and
Yo, I watched that video.
yeah, less than 50% of the screen time, is him. So, that's funny. Yeah, but
I like that channel. That's why.
It's really not about him as a character, which is like, again, it bolsters my like statement of this is an epic.
It's not about the icon. It's not a biopic. It's not a story about him. We hardly ever learn anything about him.
It's not about him.
We're not really spending time with him. It's
about the journey.
It's all just a ploy to talk about religion and art. Yeah. And how those two.
And I think it's more society.
Well, yeah, but I feel like this is. It's definitely society. I feel like there's more society stuff.
Society's so broad, though.
In his other films, I think this is. I know it's not about Rublev, but he's a stand-in for everyone.
Yeah.
And like, for us to ponder and think like, why is art a thing? Why should we do art?
Yeah.
Why should people be making art if it's not to honor God? I mean, that's kind of how Tarkovsky thinks about it, you know. So I feel like this one is a little bit less about like society sucks and everything's like bad. It's certainly like still about that though.
Yeah, I think it covers a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think is the most worthwhile approach, because this is such like a long movie. We could sort of go through the chapters and talk about it, or we could just do broad strokes.
I say broad strokes.
Okay, cool.
I don't think like, I don't know who out there is listening to this.
Yeah.
But if you need a recap, just go to IMDb. Yeah. I don't really want to like break down the whole like film,
and that'll take us days. Yeah.
Yeah. I do like. I do want to. I was telling you about this before. I love the passion scene, and there's the scene I most remember from this, other than the last 20 or 30 minutes, is the scene where Andrei is talking to Theo the Greek, the master or whatever. And his apprentice Foma is there, like with the paintbrushes in the water and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'll try to pull up some quotes, but they're like literally just talking about humanity and life. And one of the characters says, "The last judgment is coming, will burn like candles. Mark my words. Each will accuse the other of his own sins to defend himself." I mean, this is heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and one of the best quotes from the movie, this is like the one that everyone remembers. "They praise you today and vilify you and vilify tomorrow. The next day they'll forget why they praised you." And then we cut from that into...
That's basically just
a passion play.
That's the quote from The Dark Knight.
Well, this did it first.
Yeah. Well, Nolan did it better. So
no, no, he did not. Don't say that. No,
you die hero.
There's a lot of
live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Also, I do want to say in the I think in that scene as well, there's a snake in the water, and makes you think of the half eaten apple on the stalker's desk. It's just very very biblical symbolism. It's just so like apparent. But when you're watching the movie, you're like, "Oh, it's a snake." You know, it's just a water snake. Like you don't think much about it,
But I mean, yeah, that whole I do think it's about like the corruption of humanity, though. You know,
that
which,
part
ties
sure
into society. and yeah, he ties a lot of biblical allegory into it.
And the scene where the scene with the passion play and the music and the people watching,
even the depiction of pagans too, like
yeah,
or
like in the next scene,
sort of society without I don't know. I guess just his depiction of a godless society and like what that looks like, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Well, yeah, it's
Ish.
it's interesting. And it's really a precursor for
It's actually a midsummer festival act too, like Ari Aster.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that is, and
interesting.
And you see like a lot of pagans running around and they're naked and and they tie up Rublev to a cross and they're like,
which is interesting.
They're like making fun of him and it's kind of like blasphemous and stuff like to a religious person, and I think that it's just very interesting.
Well, yeah.
I certainly think I don't want to overstay my boundaries. I think this is Tarkovsky's most religious film.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Like,
it's just the thing that strikes me is like how many directors can you say like on their second movie that they really hit their stride and they figured out who they were? Not a ton, but like this is the Tarkovsky that.
And really, you could say that about
like
Ivans. You could say that about Ivans. Maybe.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
There's a lot of like Tarkovsky-isms in that film where it's like he has a vision, he knows what he wants, he's gonna get it.
Yeah, but in this movie, it's like.
But I mean, this one is like the behemoth.
Yeah.
You know, this cements.
How old was he?
This already cemented his legacy when he made this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's look real quick. He was born in 1932.
And this came out
66.
What are we doing,
gosh,
man? What are we doing?
Dang, bro. He's like quite young, isn't he? that is actually crazy though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. You know, that's it. It's a God-given gift. You know, he was. I also forgot to say this with the Steamroll and the Violin, his first short film. He just kind of made that to see like if film was right for him. He wasn't even sure.
Yeah.
He was like, is this going to maximize my ability to get to people and to say things? And I guess he thought that it was, and then he started making like the best films ever made. So,
yeah,
it's quite amazing.
I want to talk about the war segment, and then
I was about to get
with the woman. Yeah.
Still
okay. Just from like a production design standpoint and logistical, like thinking logistically, also as a producer or a director, getting that many people, that many background actors into a space, is ridiculous.
It's very. I know you haven't seen a Kurosawa. It's so Kurosawa.
This predates like any ability to just have composite people in with CGI. Like this.
Oh yeah. But I feel like I don't know if he had seen like Seven Samurai or whatever, but it's very like because Kurosawa was able to do this.
But the sheer scale of this is ridiculous.
Yeah, but Kurosawa has that scale. Okay, I will say, like,
I'm not saying he's the first to do it. I'm not saying he's the best at it,
but Kurosawa was not in the Soviet Union. Kurosawa had much more,
probably creative.
Control, definitely, and more budgets.
Yeah,
and I mean, pulling off some of this stuff,
it's amazing.
In what was formerly the Soviet Union.
I don't know how you
crazy.
do that today.
I mean,
you probably wouldn't try it. You would just.
I mean, not with CGI and stuff. Yeah. But it's. I mean,
the result. It speaks for itself.
Yeah, and I think that
like the set pieces, the action.
I think I told you this when we first watched it. I think I thought that this was maybe his slowest film. And then you were like, but there's like action.
There's like 30 minutes of
which is
war.
just absurd for a Tarkovsky film. This I feel like this film is.
It might be his fastest movie.
It's his. It stands apart from the rest
For sure, yeah.
in terms of like, there's like actually stuff happening.
Yeah. There's plot. Well,
it's structured.
It's not very. No, I wouldn't say it's plot heavy actually.
What, this?
Yeah, because there's not really a plot.
Kind of.
It's not what propels it. It's
Kind
just.
of.
It's
No.
Yeah.
Other than the last segment.
Yeah, because it's more slice of life than plot.
Yeah, but think about that last segment. That's more plot than like all his
That's
other movies
very
combined.
plot, yeah.
Like,
No, that's-
you know what I mean? Like,
You're
think
right,
about
it-
Mirror.
it-
Like, there is no plot.
No,
in Mirror.
it goes from like not really being predicated on plot to being super plot heavy, and somehow it pulls it off because the third act. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but it's just, I mean, he knows how to bring it home.
So what do you think about the girl that's like not extremely bright and she's the only one, like Rublev and her are the only one that survive that attack?
Yeah,
And also this implicates his vow of silence because a man is about to like take her upstairs and like rape her, and Rublev kills him. This is really the impetus of the movie.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's a great, like, is that a sin question? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, should he feel bad about
Yeah,
that?
he's sort of
He does, obviously.
prodding around with the question of like
Because he takes a vow
Yeah.
of silence, but
responsibility. In
yeah,
that
I think that's
situation.
one of those where it's like,
You know, maybe there's not a good answer for it. And,
yeah,
you know,
there probably isn't.
no. You know, I think in a lot of Tarkovsky's other work with Ivan and then with Little Man in Sacrifice, he depicts innocence in certain ways.
Yeah, I love that kid.
Yeah. I think innocence
man.
is really important to Tarkovsky.
Yeah, certainly,
And the woman in this scene, I think, is sort of I guess a composite character or a representation of innocence.
Because she's not, she's kind of ignorant in some ways.
Yeah.
Like,
And
she
so are
doesn't know what's going on.
Well, so are children, you know, like.
Yeah, no, exactly. Your point's well made.
And, you know, there's.
And then she like runs off like with them like later on and stuff because like dude's like, I'll give you like a lot of money and stuff. Like, she gets on the horse and they ride away, and Rublev's like, don't. Like, he's pulling her away and stuff. And there's a little bit of greed to that.
Yeah.
And there's certainly ignorance, and
Yeah, and
I think she's a really interesting character. Like, definitely.
you could think of that still from like the biblical allegory standpoint of like, you know, being tempted, like maintaining your innocence as like a Genesis thing. I don't know. That's might be reaching. But
No, I don't think that's reaching. I think that there's also the guy with the, I don't know if this is in the video that you watched, but there's the guy with the ants like crawling around him, like in the beginning, and like it's just, and then you've got the snake. There's just symbols of greed and sin and decay like everywhere, and
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, it's Tarkovsky's career like illustrates the decay of society. It's obsessed with that. He's
Yeah.
very, you know.
and I have to agree with him.
Yeah. Well, we're still here
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
I
I'm
feel
just
like
saying.
that's all of, you know.
I think most people would say society is not moving in the best direction. In most ways.
When have people ever said that society's moving in a good direction?
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that's well made.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, I mean, yeah, it certainly is the problem of like every generation thinks like they have it worse, and like it's like.
And what's interesting is that in Rublev in particular, we get into this with his later movies for sure, with The Sacrifice and Nostalgia, that technology as an extent of humanity is what brings about like the ruin of people. But in this movie, it's just kind of people. It's not really technology.
No,
it's just,
no,
it's just
it's
people
like-
are kind of like bad.
It's already like, yeah, and I think that like that kind of like goes with the idea of like Rublev not wanting to like paint and stuff. I feel like he just doesn't really have a good reason to. He doesn't know what like. There's no like inspiration around him. There's like I don't know.
Yeah, he's just uninspired.
Yeah,
Life feels.
and we like never
lifeless.
see him paint.
Life is without color.
It's yeah. Until
Yeah, it's a black and white film, by the way. If you,
it is a 3-hour black and white Russian film.
which is, important to note because, one, the technology did exist. It wasn't black and white by necessity or by like,
I think it gives it that Earth feel.
for sure. It really like. I don't know how it would work as a period piece if it was still in color. I think it'd be fine. Probably just as good, but
It's Tark. It would be good.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
yeah.
I don't know if it'd be quite as good. I think it's a great decision. Have it in
I
black and
think.
white.
I mean, you can't do what you can do at the end. You can't pull that off.
No,
without-
no,
yeah, we'll talk about that later.
definitely
but
not.
yeah. One of the greatest
But-
dramatic decisions ever.
What do you? Yeah, oh, definitely. What do you think of? Yeah, just what do you think? Like, I feel like a lot of the movie revolves around Rublev. Like, you're just waiting for him to paint, and you want to see him paint.
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
And he just panders. He's like walking out in fields. He's throwing mud on the walls. He just doesn't want to.
He loafs around and does
Yeah.
everything but paint. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like a representation of like society in some ways, ish. Maybe
I
not
don't
exactly through his character, but
It could be about finding your direction. It could be about wasting your gifts. Maybe it could be.
yep.
Uh,
And he keeps talking about like he's uninspired because like if he's not gonna paint for God or like for like religious reasons, then like why would you?
yeah.
And I think that is a super interesting point. That even just today, like that makes me think about like what art is for and like
What purpose it serves.
yeah. And I think
And who? Yeah. Who? Why you make it? Who it's for?
yes, there's a great yeah, I mean Tarkovsky has a quote: "Art would be useless if the world were perfect."
Yeah.
And he's got another I feel like there's another
If you're looking for
quote somewhere.
a fire quote to use for your wallpaper, just go watch a Tarkovsky movie. You will come out with about
Yeah, no, I mean it's
7 to 10 ideas.
this is something that he's playing around with a lot
yeah.
in Stalker, with like the music stuff, and like he's like, music gives us humanity.
Yeah. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But I think that he is so interested
I do want to talk about the
in our relationship with art and how that he views that as like the stepping stone to getting us closer to God.
yes, but his music choices are very intentional.
Oh, definitely. I mean, someone like him, they would have
Yeah.
to be, you know.
And they like the lyric, if they have lyrics, or some of them don't. But the context surrounding the bodies of work of music that he chooses often have like thematic implications to whatever's going on in the movie. Like I said, I don't want to get into that yet because
Yeah.
there's not really an example, because all of the music in this was originally composed. Which, by the way, I like the score.
Yep. No, it's great. It
Yeah.
feels like classical music of the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like someone wrote this in the 70s or in
Yeah.
the 60s. That's like,
I mean, I don't know how period accurate it is. Again,
well, yeah.
I'm not.
But it's just like from my like
It would probably be a lot
pea
more
brain,
plain
it
chant.
sounds
Yeah.
like it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like
I
of
believe
that
it. It's
time.
yeah. It sounds old enough.
You know, yeah.
Maybe not old enough. I don't know, but it sounds old, and Especially in that final scene. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I think we might be ready to get
Act
into
three?
the last the very end part. So
Oh boy.
up until this point, we've been with Rublev for most of the film.
Yeah.
I would say like most of the film.
Yeah.
He hasn't really talked that much.
No.
And at this point,
And he also doesn't talk much afterwards.
At this point in the film, he's
taking his vow of silence.
He's taking his vow of silence, and the woman like leaves,
Mm-hmm. You don't see her for a minute.
and he's just there, like
No.
he's like just taking his vow of silence, and then
Doesn't he go back to he was at a monastery. He leaves to go paint. But doesn't he stay at another monastery or something? Or he's like...
yes, he is
he's
at a monastery.
He's at another monastery for 10 years, and that's where he lives with
He's
his
not
vow of
painting.
silence.
He is not painting.
He's just living.
He's
For
just chilling
a while, yeah.
This dude has no brain rot
Yeah.
inside. Like he's not like
yeah.
he's not. His dopamine receptors
Yeah.
are incredible. Trust me, like he's not getting tired of anything. His attention span is probably just amazing.
Yeah.
you know,
He could probably watch this movie.
yeah, easily. This would probably fry his brain, dude. So no, then chapter 3 and part 2, we cut to the bell. And it's just what it's called, and it's
Here's
14,
a bell. Boom.
It's 1423 AD.
In the words of
The song was already turned, but here's a bell. Ding.
Andrei Tarkovsky said, this movie was already turned. Now here's a bell.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we see a teenager named Boris, and
Played by the actor who played Ivan.
yes. I thought you were about to make some joke.
No,
Okay, yeah. No, that is true.
Tarkovsky likes to reuse talent.
Yes. The main guy from Stalker is in this.
It's the main guy?
No.
Oh, one of the...
Yeah.
One of the... was.
No. My mistake. Rublev in this is one of the side guys in Stalker. Yeah, my mistake. So yeah, we see a teenager just in kind of the countryside. His name's Boris, and we see some soldiers coming up, and they're looking for his father, who's a bell maker, and he tells them that his whole family is dead from the plague. So he tells the soldiers, he just flat out lies to them, and he says that his father told him the secret to bell making before he died.
Mm-hmm. Well...
And he says,
You weren't
I
supposed
have
to say
the
he
secret.
lied. He says, I have the secret to bell making. He
Okay,
tells the
yes,
soldiers.
he says, I have the secret of bell bronze.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, this kid's got the juice.
Yeah.
We're not supposed, we don't know that he lied at this point.
From a dramatic standpoint,
My bad.
it is you not knowing that he doesn't know how to make bells is the thing. That's what sells this entire act.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's not like the linchpin of the movie, but...
I mean, it's the linchpin of the third act.
Kind of.
All right.
I guess.
Well-
So, what?
Well, I was just going to say, he leads hundreds of people in
Yeah.
constructing a bell. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then when you find out that he doesn't know how to make bells.
Yeah, whoa.
We already...
Yeah. So these soldiers are like, hey, the Prince of Vladimir wants a new bell because this prince is gonna become the king or whatever. So they keep trying to find the right place to mold it and
the right dirt or...
yeah, there's thousands of people here.
Yeah.
There is a ton of people. And then in one of the coolest shots,
they cast the bell.
we see no.
I'm
Before
jumping the gun?
that. What?
I'm jumping the gun?
Yeah, well, I was
Okay.
just gonna say before that because at this point
What
we're
was it?
we're like, what the heck's going on? This is a little bit weird. We cut to Rublev, and he's there.
I don't remember that shot.
Well, it's not a specific shot, but we see the kid. And it pans up, and Rublev is just one of the workers.
Oh,
he's
okay.
he's a bystander.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's Rublev. Like the stories have just connected. It's like Pulp Fiction, you know, and so then like over the course of like 40 minutes, because Tarkovsky loves his long takes, we see this bell is cast, and
So
they
good,
mount it
man.
up.
How did they actually do that without casting the bell?
No, they did.
They cast a bell?
I think. How else? How else would
that's a
you
good question.
do?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was like already made, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, they had to like get it up, and
They were
all
burning
these
something.
extras
Yeah.
were like, we see like some incredible shots of the day where they will ring it, and the prince comes through, and like it seems like the whole like town is there, dude. Like there's like hundreds, thousands of people.
Yeah.
And like before they like try to ring it, like one of the prince's like helpers, security guards, something, whatever,
Yeah.
is like, if this doesn't ring, like we're gonna kill this kid.
Yeah.
Like, if this doesn't work, all these people are gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get like some
Some
incredibly
drama, man.
like dramatic,
Oh, yeah.
suspenseful shots of like the
The molten.
like the inner like the bell piece. I don't know.
Oh,
what to
okay.
call
I
it.
thought the shell like that.
Like the little thing that like hits the bell.
Oh no, you're okay. We were talking about different things. I thought you were talking
okay.
about when they're casting it. That's way. Before,
No, yeah. Wait, what did you want to say?
No, you're talking like the actual. I don't know the thing that you swing that hits the bell. I don't know the name
I don't
of
know
it.
what
Yeah.
you call that.
Yeah. We'll look
But-
that up.
But we see that swinging back and forth, and we just hear like the iron like. It's just like
Oh yeah,
creaking.
you can hear the
and it's
the mechanism squeaking.
it's so
yeah.
like
It's heavy. It's
so
heavy
and
material.
it's so suspenseful.
Uh-huh.
You're like, this kid is going to die if this doesn't ring.
Mm-hmm.
And importantly, we cut to the lady from before, and she like looks like a princess now. She's like wearing all white, and she is holding a horse. And we cut to Rublev really quick, and we hear the bell. And it is just a moment where the whole movie comes together, you know, and it's beautiful. It's like it's very like it's deeply touching.
Yeah.
And it sounds weird like saying that now, but it really is like, oh wow, like they did this. And then after that, you want to like explain the rest.
The rest? Sure.
Sorry. Even talking about this movie, I'm starting to yawn. Yeah.
Bro is doing his best Tarkovsky impression.
Tarkovsky.
Me watching a Tarkovsky.
Tarkovsky viewer impression. Yeah. But after the bell's cast, we see the young boy Boris. Yeah.
Just like out in the field.
Yeah, out in the field just crying.
Yeah. And you're like, why's he crying?
Yeah. He just headed this huge operation that was a success, and he's probably gonna be lauded for it or recognized by this prince, for doing that. And also he's got the pedigree. I mean, his dad was a bell maker, so that's got to be worth something. And so Andrei Rublev walks over to go comfort him while he's crying. And then he reveals that his dad, like on his deathbed, never told him the secret of how to make bells.
Yeah, and he's like, it's like an emotion of like sadness and depression, and he's also angry.
Yeah, it's anger. Yeah,
Like he's like, why did my dad not like tell me this?
like
Which, in fairness, like the dad died from the plague. Like, how did he know?
immediately after casting a bell.
Yeah.
Which is I just think it's so fascinating.
Consinity.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Everything about this movie is consinity.
Yeah, Tarkovsky's work is consinity. But yeah, I just think it's a fascinating. I don't know if it's about being your own worst critic or.
I think it's like
It's probably
partially that.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But
It's like, and I mean, I've had these moments before where you just like,
you lose sight, like you've already done.
and he probably has all these like emotions because he's relieved.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it's like, and it's one of those things where it's just like, that should be like his like proudest moment of his life and his happiest,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just sitting in mud crying. It's just so beautiful. Like
Okay. We're talking about. It's starting to make sense. So yeah, I think a lot of artists, after they make a body of work, they hate it or they feel that it's not good enough somehow, or and it can be a masterpiece, and it often is. And I think in the case of Boris, that like there's literally a tangible object that represents the time and effort poured into making this bell that a whole team of people work together to construct.
But there's a case to be made that it rings, but it might not be perfect.
But it's not about being perfect. I think
exactly. That's what I'm saying though. But that could be what he's thinking.
I think
that could be like.
I think it's about an artist's response to their own art, and
that's what I'm saying.
Being afraid that it's not good enough, or
like he should be happy, but he's not.
The short-sightedness of not being able to step back and appreciate what you just did.
Because you're always your own worst critic.
Yeah.
So.
But the most important part of the scene is where, in comforting Boris, Rublev breaks his like decade-long vow of silence, or however long.
I mean, this guy has not talked in 11 years.
Yeah. And it's pretty like. You do a double take as a viewer. You're like, did this guy just talk?
And it's not some like cinematic moment where it's like cut to him.
It's not like a slow mo. Yeah,
he's talking.
He starts talking, and you're like,
he just talks.
It's so casual, and you're like, wait, what?
And Tarkovsky does not.
No,
he doesn't like put any special attention to it.
Mm-hmm. There's no build up. It's just
he just talks.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't. He doesn't tell Boris, by the way. He's like, by the way, in telling you this, I'm breaking a 10-year long
He
vow
just
of
spits
silence.
out one of the best lines in cinema history.
You got it. I can't remember.
You got it. Oh, you want me to say the exact quote?
Read it.
He said, Andrei confronts him, and he says, quote, "Don't cry. You will go on to cast many bells, and I will go on to paint icons."
That's heat.
And it's just that you can see... The most beautiful part of the movie for me is Rublev getting his love back.
I think
art because
he forgives himself in that moment. I think
yes, and you can see just like he just has a joy.
Yeah,
and his love for art is back because he saw this kid make a piece of incredible art.
It's like life gets its color back in a way.
Yeah, go ahead and tell him. Go ahead and tell him what happens.
So, following this, literally one of the best like scenes of dialogue I think in any movie that I've seen. It's a short exchange, but still, it's just so impactful.
Yeah.
You see, Tarkovsky pans into a burning fire, or the I guess the.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like
wood burning, like charcoal.
Yeah.
Or the ash
it's just
from
barely burning.
Yeah. And then it sort of cuts, and there's...
It's not a match cut, really.
No.
It just cuts.
There's a cut, but now there's sort of a hue to it. And
and you're like...
Your eyes are sort of adjusting, and you're confused as to what's going on.
Yeah. I'm sure that happened to you when you watched it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Because the first time I watched it, I was like, is that a bluish, greenish color?
Yeah.
I was like, is there color?
And then you see a slow dissolve into... I don't know what the first shot is, but...
It's just a red background.
Yeah, it's a red background. It's literally color for the first time in the movie.
Yeah,
it's color.
Yeah,
and
this guy has some balls.
keep in mind, the film is about Andrei Rublev, the painter, who has not once yet painted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then he goes with Boris off to paint, and suddenly it's I mean, it sounds stupid to explain out loud, but it's just it's so genius.
Yeah,
that the movie's not into color until he as an artist lives out like his calling.
Yeah, and it's a cut to the current day paintings of Andrei Rublev.
I guess portfolio or
the actual icon.
I don't know if you call that a portfolio,
just like
but
the work.
Yeah, body of work of
Yeah.
Andrei Rublev, the painter. Yes.
And it's like in incredible paintings. And it's like
Yeah.
it's
no, they're magnificent.
It's
The
like
scale is huge.
It's like
yeah.
the disciples and
Yeah.
angels and Jesus, and it's like all of these great like religious
It's
works.
yeah.
And it's in magnificent color. It just looks
Yeah.
amazing.
And
You
the
know?
music is awesome.
Yeah, you'll hear it at the beginning of the
Yeah,
pod.
but it's just it solidifies itself as probably the greatest ending of all time.
Easily for me.
Yeah,
Easily for me.
you've got Lehen, you've got
Wait, let me look.
yeah, Mason's got a list, and I haven't seen nearly as many movies of.
I don't know if you. I mean, I made this list very quickly.
But
Number one is Rublev, and number two is Lehen. I know that. Number three, Latrue, which you haven't seen yet.
no,
Number four, Decalogue 1.
that belongs up there.
That is just an incredible. And if y'all want a refresher on that, you can go back and listen to our previous episode. A little plug there.
I think Fire Walk with Me could be. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
it
top
could be up
10.
there.
I think it is quite good.
Number five, I have 2001. Space Baby. Spoilers. And number
Space
six,
Baby, indeed, yeah.
Number six, No Country, with the two monologues.
You know what?
At the end, what?
I don't know how this is going to age. I think Zone of Interest belongs up there.
Oh yeah, no, it could. It could. Now. I think I made this before that.
I
came
think
out.
Zone of
Yeah.
Interest ending is phenomenal.
Number seven, Silence.
Oh,
That's an all-timer.
dude, Silence's ending. Oh,
That's
man.
an all-timer.
Yeah.
8.
You could have an entire podcast just on what the ending means and
Yeah.
how the cross ends. Well, sorry, spoilers. How the cross ends up in his hands.
Which we disagree.
We disagree on.
Very
Yeah.
strongly
Yeah.
disagree. I think you're wrong.
I think the whole point is that you don't know, but I
don't know. But number 8, Uncut Gems.
yeah, that's a Hitchcock ending. If you've ever
No, it
seen
really
one.
is.
Yeah.
9 and 10 should definitely be higher. 9 is Mirror, all-timer.
Oh yeah.
Number
The
10
ending sequence alone.
Number
yeah.
10, Close Up, all-timer. Dude.
Yeah.
That
Talk
is
about
such
a
a
feel-good
touching
ending. Yeah.
ending.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, I think all of Tarkovsky's endings. I mean, you think of Stalker, you think of Nostalgia, you think of The Sacrifice. I mean, all of them are like, oh my gosh, what a way to end a film.
Yeah.
And this is the best one. You know.
Yeah.
It's,
The best ending.
and yes, and don't forget that after the paintings, after like 20 minutes, the very final shot is a field and it's blurry and there's 4 horses and it's raining. And then it ends. I don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
I really don't.
I mean,
I don't even want to like throw stuff out there
Yeah.
and like hope it sticks to the wall,
Yeah.
because
I mean, the closest thing, water. I know what that represents in
Yeah.
many situations, but like,
rebirth.
yeah,
Yeah, no.
horses. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of horses in the film. I know that. So, where do you? I guess we'll talk about this as we do these throughout the weeks. Where do you put this in his filmography? That's just like one of the hardest questions ever.
Second or third, probably.
Second or third, okay. I think it's third for me right now, which is crazy because I just glazed it like crazy. But
Sacrifice is squarely first.
I think,
yeah. I think that's.
spoiler.
I think, yeah.
And that's not.
You know,
first
I'm not
for me.
even. I mean,
that's not first for me.
Yeah.
So
I'm not gonna give any hype to the Sacrifice yet because there's an entire episode coming. But
I do think that there are 4 of his movies, with maybe the 5th being Solaris, that you could say
is nostalgia
could be argued. No, could be
That's
argued.
crazy.
Well, could
I
Stalker?
mean, I wouldn't call nostalgia perfect though.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
it's-
the big
it's close,
4.
it's close.
Mirror, Sacrifice.
Oh, Mirror. Yeah, I always forget
Yeah,
that. People,
Mirror, Sacrifice,
Dude, Mirror.
Stalker, and this.
I can't believe Mirror is that short.
Yeah, it's like 90 minutes. But I think, like, you haven't seen Solaris. I think,
Yeah.
Is it his best? No. Could you tell me it's his best and argue for it? Possibly. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite as strong as like these 4.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then that's like all his movies, other than Ivan's. It's just heavy hitter, and he only has 7 films. It's just such a tight filmography, you know. So
yeah,
it's crazy that this isn't number 1.
Because this would so easily be like
it's like
number 1
for only. There's only like 3 or 4 other directors that this might not be number 1 for them.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it would be number 1 for every single one.
and by a large margin too.
Yeah, probably.
But the fact that he can make better films than this repeatedly is
He had the juice, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. That's all I got.
say that concludes the first weekly
a good episode.
installment in the Tarkovsky Tuesday series. Well,
What else do we have coming up? More Tarkovsky.
more Tarkovsky. I think we should give the folks maybe we throw them a mailbag or a draft or 2 or something.
Yeah.
And then we'll have
Depending on what we watch tonight.
yeah
We might do like just
an episode
quick
on that,
episode
and
on
then
that or something.
a week or 2 down the pipeline we'll have probably 2 to talk about with our lovely co-host Mr. Jacob White back in town. We will be so happy to
And
have
Heath.
him back. And Heath.
Let's go.
Honestly, at this point, Heath
Heath is an honorary guest.
Yeah,
he's basically just a guest.
he's just a co-host, man.
Yeah.
He's the fourth co-host of this podcast.
He might be
Yeah, honestly,
be
if
be a regular really soon.
Yeah, so
shout out
and
Heath.
I am here for it. So Team Heath.
If anyone
Team
made
Jacob,
it this far into the pod, we
Yeah.
love you.
Yeah, thank you for letting us indulge. But yeah, thanks for hanging along for the ride. We really do enjoy doing this, and we hope you like listening.
And we might have some. Are we gonna do different outro music?
Sure.
Or no, I haven't thought about that.
I don't know.
Just put some.
Well, either way,
or something.
either way.
Roll that outro music.
Yeah.